The Wes Penra Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The First Level of Learning. http://wespenry.com. Solution Section. Solution Paper Number 3, Expansion on the Living Library. DNA, an Ascension. By Wes Penra, Friday, August 7, 2011. Part 2. 4.2 How we were unplugged from the multiverse and how to plug in again. When the new owners of this real estate called Earth arrived, around 450 to 500,000 years ago, everything changed. The Anunnaki wanted a race intelligent enough to be able to understand commands and execute them, but not intelligent enough to question them or rebel against the gods. Apparently, the apes and monkeys inhabiting Earth at that time weren't smart or good enough, and didn't have the right attributes to accomplish the task. The evolved humans did. However, these human, highly multidimensional beings, who basically were a threat to the Anunnaki anyway due to that they were too similar to them in intelligence and awareness, but much more mellow, fit the task pretty well. The only problem was that they were way too evolved and intelligent. So what the Anunnaki did, with the help of technology and trickery, much of which the Earth humans lacked, was to manipulate their DNA. They mixed their own 11 strands 6 with our own 12 strand, unplugged 10 of the 12 strands and created a 2-strand DNA, the double helix, which is all that most humans have activated up to this day. This effectively disconnected us from the universe and the multiverse, left us with what today's scientists call junk DNA, and thus created a frequency fence with a narrow band in which most humans operate today. We have forgotten who we are and what our purpose is, where we came from and who created us. I can see a very sophisticated agenda playing out above our heads. The Anunnaki lied to the Sumerians because they knew they would come back full force and take over again, and they want to do so as peacefully as possible, having already manipulated mankind by telling us through ancient scriptures that we owe our intelligence and evolvement to them, when the opposite is more likely to be true. They robbed us of our connectedness with the multiverse, and due to our naivety, we apparently didn't see what was coming, or for some reason didn't do anything about it. We may not have been able to, because we were a peaceful and playful race. We don't know the exact history, yet, so another option is that the Anunnaki took what they wanted, called abductions, and killed off the rest. Then, in fact, they have infiltrated, and to some degree even created, many of our organized religions and channeled prophecies like these in the Book of Revelation, so that their second coming will look like God's prophecy fulfilled. Use discernment here. I can understand LPGCS reasoning when they say that we need to find a way to defend ourselves against invader forces who are interested in this real estate, and A.M.I. The Nibiruans are offering just that to our human representatives, albeit self-elected, amongst other things like teaching us how to build a peaceful relationship with each other and our cosmic brothers and sisters and how to be self-governed. Well, this sounds fantastic on the surface, but for the reader who has followed this series of papers and read Sitchin's books, there may have arisen a certain amount of doubt about the sincerity of our giant, literally speaking, cosmic relatives. It seems ironic that this species who has created so many wars and so much havoc on this planet should teach us about living in peace. Now, let us return to the DNA. Picture yourself a fiber optic cable with a 12-fiber optic highway running through the bigger cable, and then you unplug 10 of them and let 2 of them continue running. The other ones are still there, but not connected and activated anymore. Even the 2 remaining are then being altered and manipulated. This may be a poor and inaccurate picture from a scientific perspective, but it may help people understand what happened to our DNA. Everything that was not necessary for survival and anything that would keep us informed was unplugged. Left was the double helix, which locked us into controllable frequencies 7 and unplugged us from the cosmos. The root chakras and the heart chakras were still slightly open, as was the throat chakra, but chakras 7 to 12 were successively closed. Because, in addition to the frequency fence or quarantine we talked about earlier, the Anunnaki also created a literal frequency fence around our planet to be able to control how much of the human frequencies could be modulated and changed. Thus, it made it very difficult for the higher frequencies of light, bringing gamma ray information to the planet, to penetrate and keep us informed and updated. Once in a while, when the higher frequencies of gamma ray information managed to penetrate in spite, there wasn't anybody there to receive the information. As always, like with any information, one has to ask oneself, who's to gain from telling us? And this is the whole reason why I am not swallowing the scientific idea of DNA/RNA, hook and sink. The metaphysical information is the extension of what is already known by scientists here on Earth, mainstream of rogue. And who benefits? However I twist and bend it and look at it from everybody's perspective involved, I can only see that we humans gain in conjunction with those who are trying to help on the metaphysical level. If this was told with evil intents, the motives are not there, neither is the negative manipulation, ever so subtle, but if we think of it as an effort to make us grow, the motives are there, including the fact that it feels right. As our DNA is evolving towards its original 12 stand, the new helices are being formed as the light-encoded filaments are starting to bundle themselves together. As this is happening, we are creating a more evolved nervous system which allows much more data to move itself into our consciousness. We will begin to be able to use the full capacity of the brain, which will create effects unimaginable for the presently evolving human. It doesn't all have to do with increased intelligence, although it's a part of it, but by connecting our dormant extended nervous system with the cosmos, we will become multidimensional in thought and action again. And not only that, we will realize and experience the true nature of our body. We will find out what this amazing body we inhabit can really do, and how important it is for our growth and multidimensional existence. It's not just something you carry along to be able to go from one place to another, or do certain tasks, or accomplish some skills we are so used to today. The body is a container and a storage place for all the multidimensional knowledge we'll need to expand our consciousness. Therefore, we would benefit a lot from feeling gratitude not only for having one of these amazing bodies, but also for having one here and now. There are an incredible amount of discarnate beings who would love to have a body in this space and time, here on Earth. This is when and where things are happening. In this little window of time, just before what is called the end times, with the help of a healthy and well-maintained body, we can evolve and regain our 12-strand DNA and connect with the supercosmos we call the multiverse. So it's high time to start taking care of the body we have, start eating well, preferably plant and seed your own food, exercise, have good sex with someone you love who is vibrating on a similar frequency as yourself, love yourself and your body, talk to your body and compliment it, love and assist others when possible, give them compliments when appropriate, get plenty of rest, slow down your pace, connect with nature, and have fun. Get together with people of your kind, get guidance from your spirit guides, and expand your consciousness by using and trusting your intuition. How is that for a start? Doesn't sound boring to me. Although we do live in exciting times, not everybody will be able to enjoy it as much. We, who are aware of all this, are the forerunners, those who are paving the road for others. It is our responsibility to anchor the higher frequencies into this reality and ground it. There will be tremendous chaos coming up, and people around us will cave in and have nervous breakdowns, because their nervous systems get overwhelmed with all the changes of which they have no awareness. We will sometimes feel helpless when we see those around us whom we know or don't know at all, break down before our eyes. Have compassion and show understanding when this happens. Be a stable point, give them the best of your energies and show them you care and that you love them. This will not always be enough, and when you notice there is not much you can do, just let go. After a while you will realize that you can't save the world on your own, but you can help raising the vibrations and let those who are ready follow. That is all, and the best, you can do. Remember, not everybody here on Earth today were incarnated with the purpose to make it through. Accept that and let go, even if it's a partner or a relative. It will cause us grief and sadness, but if we learn more about the higher purpose and why we all are here, it will be an easier transition for all of us. Another important thing to be able to reconnect the unplugged helices is oxygenation. Oxygen feeds the coding and awakens the adjunct DNA. People have asked me what's the best way to meditate, and although there is no straight answer to that question because it's individual, breathing exercises is something I would highly recommend, and it's always safe. I can personally not think of any single exercise that would be more valuable, if I could only choose one. There are many ways to do it, and each one of us have to feel it out and find a way that works for us, but the best one I've found so far is the quantum pause, which is also the one I use myself. It was originally published on the Wingmakers website, http://wingmakers.com, http://eventtemples.com, but I also have included it here on this website, http://wespenry.com/quantum-pause.htm right parenthesis. I will post more good exercises in time. Once the 12 strands are activated, our eyesight will change, our hearing will be different, our lifespan will increase, etc. No technology needed. People are mutating so quickly that some scientists call the whole process a disease and some are very concerned about it. Billions of dollars are being used for DNA research. Much of this mutation happens in dream state and gradually we will develop new abilities. We will automatically know many things and be very certain that this is how it is, even when people try to prove you wrong. Ever wondered why certain tribes, especially in Africa, are using bones to find things out? Here in the Western world we call it superstition, but it's far from it. These tribes have carried on ancient knowledge over time. This is confirmed by the Pleiadians as well. The skeleton and our bones correspond with the information stored in our DNA. When our skeletal form is in alignment, the energy from sacred power sites is released, the cosmic rays are pulled into our bodies, and the light-encoded filaments inside our cells begin to reorder themselves. The change will be mirrored to us everywhere we look. Once the helices come into full activation, there is an awakening to your inner knowledge, a knowledge that goes beyond what you have been taught. It's the knowledge of self, and the understanding that the physical world is just a little tiny piece of the whole spectrum. When this happens, it's imperative that you keep your position, and believe it, understand it, and know it. Those, not yet activated, may tell you it's not true, get angry, and be screaming for proof and evidence, even ridicule you. You may already have experienced this. Ignore it. Don't challenge it. It all has to do with inner experience and knowledge, and if the other person has not seen it, there is no way you can convince him or her about anything you have learned from inner experience, they are still stuck in the human programming. Just make sure you are not starting to doubt what you have learned. In the beginning there may be times when this whole transition can be confusing, because people you used to have a lot in common with are all of a sudden not on your wavelength anymore. However, once activated, there is no way back. If we try to go backwards in attempts to reconnect with the old ways, we will soon find ourselves getting into a depression. Don't go there. Instead, go through the initial confusing changes and after that, life will start getting quite interesting and exciting, to say the least. I have gone through all the steps in this paragraph myself, so I know what I'm talking about, and if you recognize any of this yourself, I hope my own experiences will be helpful in some way. If ever in doubt regarding your own sanity, think to yourself whether what you've learned have helped you expand your consciousness and quality of living or not, for you, and hopefully for others. If it has, why doubt it? The original creator gods want to see us evolve and break through the third density walls in spite of the darkness that has been swept around us for 300,000 years. Before the Dark Lords took over, the encoding of our DNA was done in such fashion that we could evolve fairly safely no matter what, as long as we were still looking for the light. If we evolve too fast, it will fry our nervous system, and this is something the original creator gods wanted to avoid. So, keep in mind that it is not that we all of a sudden are going to evolve from 2-strand to 12-strand DNA, that are suddenly going to manifest in our earthly and multidimensional bodies. We already have the 12 helices inside of us, and they just need activation. So it's not because of the effects from spiritual and body work that we all of a sudden gain strands out of nowhere. Just want to make this clear, because I've seen on the internet that people sometimes are confusing the two. The changes that will happen to us, biologically, are instituted by cosmic rays. We will notice throughout the changes within us that we start remembering things as our neurological pathways, which have been closed, start to grow, and we can carry more information. The information is sent on waves of light, waves of energy, or beams from the Sunday. It's this energy which rearranges our biology. Essentially, what needs to be rearranged is how we perceive the world around us, in other words, our psychic senses. Hence, we will notice a fluctuation in our physical senses. For example, what used to taste good we feel is now hardly edible. What smelled good we may no longer care for, but instead we will find something else we didn't think much of before which now may smell really good. I notice myself that my taste in food has changed tremendously over the last couple of years. I have a very hard time finding something to eat that really tastes good. I can walk up and down the aisles in the grocery store without finding anything I'd like to put in my mouth. It's high time I start growing my own food big time. Other signs of activations are changes in hearing. You start hearing things you didn't hear before, and urges to change habits. You get impulses to do something new or different, and find areas in your life that used to be normal patterns for you are no longer serving you. You may feel the urge to change your lifestyle. This is all part of this energy. As you make these changes, you make more room for the cosmic energies inside your biological being. Besides from periodical increases and changes in your physical senses, you will also start having flashes of increases in non-physical senses, like telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, abilities to have vision in your inner eye, and the ability to just know. You will find that even when someone claims something is in a certain way and have some physical evidence which backs it up and tells you this is common knowledge, you know that's not true. You know there is so much more to the picture, and you are so sure about it that this other person can talk forever and it doesn't make any difference. And I am not talking about unreasonable stubbornness now. There seems to be so much happening behind the scenes, and still the majority of mankind is still clueless. How is this possible? Once upon a time I asked myself that question as well. Still, I am only scratching the surface. What I am telling you is next to nothing in comparison to what is really happening above our heads, if I may use that expression. Even if I spent the rest of my life attempting to touch the first thing about what is really going on a higher level, related to Earth, I would still not be successful. It's overwhelming. Earth is the diamond in the sky, the most precious of precious, and many beings from different densities and dimensions are very interested in what is happening with the living library right now. We are in the spotlight constantly, and we don't even know it. But we don't need to understand everything, we just need to know that we are certainly not alone and we have many dimensional and interdimensional friendly eyes looking in our direction, most of them without intervening. Our conscious mind is always curious, but there is a point where too much information is defeating the purpose. The clue lies in the unconscious mind, which knows it all, and wants us to feel, connect, and use our intuition. It wants us to use our heart chakra, expand it so we can connect to the much larger, universal energetic heart, as described in the Wingmakers material, http://www.wingmakers.com/downloads/energetic heart left parenthesis print right parenthesis .pdf right parenthesis. 4.3. Healing along the lines of time. Another thing I did intuitively, but read about later on, was to go back in time, this lifetime mostly, and recall events, relationships, happenings that I have had issues with and which were never resolved. I started thinking about them in terms of healing, forgave the person and forgave myself for whatever we did which we regret, and began to change not only the feelings about it by transmitting a lot of love into the incident in my mind, but I also changed the event/relationship, still in my mind, in a way I would have preferred it to be. To my big surprise at the time, the issue went away and hasn't bothered me since. I can also truly feel that something happened on the other end of the spectrum, it affected the other person, and I actually changed the timeline. This is what healing along the lines of time really is. You can change your past, literally, by remodeling it in your mind, and heal the wounds that were part of your past. Same thing can be done with other simultaneous lives you have, or had, depending on perspective, even future events. But how do you connect with other lifetimes? It's easier than you probably think, and it will get even easier as you progress with your DNA reactivation. Have you ever had thoughts coming up from an apparent nowhere, perhaps from old Egypt, the Roman Empire, the medieval times? Have you ever watched a scenery inside your head, almost like a short piece of a movie or just a few pictures flying by? Very often, these film fragments/pictures are from parallel lives in other times. View them, expand on them, listen to them, feel them, smell them, and find out what happened and why they were brought to your attention. Sometimes there is some trauma or unresolved issue connected with the pictures, and once you've found out what it is, you can heal the past and change the outcome. Continue doing so as events come up, but don't go looking for them in your mind, or it could be overwhelming. Let them come to you. As you start doing this, the process will become easier. Are you obsessed with a certain time in the past that you have read everything about that you can get your hands on? Rest assured that at least one of your incarnations was in that particular time. This came natural to me for many reasons, but also because I studied Dianetics in the 1980s. L. Ron Hubbard's bestseller, Dianetics: The Modern Science of Mental Health, which is a great guide. It's not only a deep study into the subconscious mind, but you can also practice what is in there and get amazing results. Although I'm since long finished with Scientology and the imposters who took over after Hubbard, there are gems in Hubbard's work that can't be found anywhere else, not even after all these years. Dianetics is one such piece of work. The book was written in 1950. The world was definitely not ready for that book when it came out, but is more so now. Practicing Dianetics helps you as well to heal along the lines of time, but soon even that book will be obsolete. The Pleiadians, without mentioning Hubbard, teach the same thing. Not because they copy Hubbard, but because that's how the mind works. By doing what's described above, we can heal your timelines, something which is crucial if we want to move on. On another account, but still related, we have people who die and leave their body, realizing they are no longer physical. Now they miss their possessions, their house, their jewels, their money, or whatever it can be, people. Although there is of course no way to re-enter the newly exited body and continue the life that just ended, the spirit will hang on to this lifetime for a long time, even after they've had new incarnations, feeling they are missing something, followed by a great sadness or emptiness instead of letting go in the first place. Things like this can be resolved by timeline healing, and we are no longer glued to any particular time on our perceived timeline. We are ready to go to the next level. We all have parallel, legitimate existences in simultaneous time, and it's not that this is the first and only time we have had the chance to connect with them. It happens to people ever so often, but when the memories pop up, our emotional body haven't been able to compute them. Now we do, on an increasing scale. As we heal along the lines of time, we may stumble upon lifetimes where we were working for the dark side, and when we look at it we may feel ashamed, shocked, or in denial. Mind you, we all have these lifetimes, it's a part of the overall experience. If we were good all the time, how can we evolve? We need to experience both sides of the game. Like the Pleiadians say, the only way you can step into this higher frequency and determine the future of your lives on this planet is to not judge your participation within this process. Realize that even when you did things you are not proud of now, it was in an effort to shed light into your own dark sides, and while you were doing it, you were most likely a catalyst for others as well. 4.4 Triple Helix DNA. I want to wedge in some short comments on triple helix DNA, partly because this was a big issue a couple of years ago when I wrote the ebook, The Myth Around Supreme David Rockefeller, 2009. http://supremrockefeller.wordpress.com/right/. The Thule order in Germany have people they consider being of a certain spiritual awareness, bloodline, or having certain attributes to be candidates for getting their triple helix DNA activated. The candidates send a blood sample to the order, and they run it through a Vril generator, and if the person is ready, his/her triple helix will activate, even on a distance. People can send their samples from wherever around the world, and do not need to travel to Germany to have it done. This is not something I would recommend for many different reasons. Triple helix brings you into the feeling center. The feeling center is emotion, and emotion is your road or bridge or ticket to the spiritual self. When people deny the emotional self, they can't get into the spiritual realms. People who had their triple helix activated have testified of increased psychic powers, higher awareness, and a new, or increased ability to apply magic. This is all relevant to the activation, but what normally happened after a while when Thule had activated certain people was that they either went insane, started feeling awkward in many ways, or if they already had a complicated emotional life, it was intensified. For example, if the receptors are disconnected in the brain as a result of emotional abuse, baggage or bad karma that wasn't dealt with could result on the individual going insane. The bottom line is that DNA shouldn't be activated by artificial means, it's a natural process and shouldn't be sped up like in Thule's case. If the people were ready to have their triple helix activated, they already would and wouldn't need Thule to do it for them. Be very careful what you do and whom you're dealing with. Find the answers within, and don't let others bypass your progression. In regards to the Thule order and how they activate the triple helix, I have recently received some new information from an anonymous insider source, who says, the activation of triple helix is not a choice for any individual by request, not everyone can be activated. The reason why is because it is a case-by-case selection process. In the mind, a station is tuned in that enables direct contact with its particular ones in this case. They refer to themselves as the elder race, who are different than the ancient ones, and are also called the gods of Agartha. If the ETS that gave Jarl Vidar this technology do not see value for them to use you, the ritual will not be successful regardless. Your blood will not activate. Also, the framework of the initiate is analyzed before they are chosen. The mind and emotional body may have glitches. If they are minor and easily reparable, the ETs are willing as long as the initiate's desirable traits are far more valuable for their mission. The behavior will be erratic, indecisive, or impulsive, at first anyway, but over time the brain receptors that are producing unbalanced electromagnetic pulses, kinetic brain energy, will sync with the biological vehicle's velocity of motion, the speed at which the mind evolves to link with the more advanced beings. This duration cycle is best described by analogy of the larval stage of an insect. There are no mistakes in the selection process of the ETs involved. Once the triple helix has been activated, the DNA codes awakened in the program will gain momentum as it progresses towards the specific design of the structure it was activated for. The behaviors and emotions are actually key and required for the individual's course for a few reasons. One is to be able to push forward to completion. Another is to attract the spirits needed on the astral plane to assist them and also to emotionally connect with other people with their now charged magnetism. And other reasons, but as I said, it is case by case. Many readers of my previous book, The Myth Around Supreme David Rockefeller, were curious about how the Vril machine is working, and at that time I didn't know enough to be able to give a correct answer to that. However, at least I have some more information on it which I hope can be valuable for those who are interested. My anonymous source continues. The Vril machine uses the Earth's grid lines and the energy fields that correspond to the body's meridian system to activate the triple helix. But I don't have all the details on it to be informative. The energy grid is not functioning properly anyway because it is out of balance. Blockage has been building up energy in the Western world and starving the eastern side of the world. That's why the Western world is bountiful and the eastern part is living with poverty. It's important though to look at how those blocks got there. That's a Stargate issue that has to be dealt with before we go into the next cycle. The Mayan calendar says we are in the fourth world. But actually, only half the planet entered the fourth world. The other half stayed in the Third World, as in Third World countries. The Stargate located in Iraq is being kept in mystery. So I don't know anything about the problem, or a solution for it. But have you ever thought it was interesting how our planet has indigenous tribes cohabituating here on Earth with the modern world? Why wouldn't the tribes' people buy shoes and build roads? They have no desire, their way of life is as important to them as ours. And if you talk with them, they will tell you about planets in our solar system that astronomers barely discovered in the last decade, and they don't even own a television. 4.5. Nibiru's coordinates and the original creator gods have landed on Earth. We now know that Nibiru is going to enter our solar system. Today, on July 30, 2011, as of this writing, its coordinates are 5 HRS 53 mins 27 SEC by 6 HRS 10 mins 58 SEC, best seen in Southern Hemisphere. With Nibiru come the A.A.M.I, and they have their agenda. However, the original creator gods, although they've kept an eye on their library, are also coming back, and as a matter of fact, as we speak, many of them have landed here on Earth, mostly Pleiadians so far. Pleiadian Lecture, Spring 2011. Things are building up, it seems. Earth has now entered a conjunction or lineup that the original creator gods have been waiting for and have thus returned to help us reactivate the 12-helix DNA in our species and put Earth back on track. It was decided that the stewards of this planet should hold the key to unlocking the data that was stored in the living library. 4.6 The number 12 in relation to Earth and our DNA. So why do we have 12-strand DNA and not 5, 7, 10, 15, 20, or whatever? Like I've mentioned before, there are many metaphysical entities, channeled or via SDS, sensor data streaming, who are on the same page regarding the 12-strand DNA. However, Barbara Marciniak's Pleiadians are the forerunners and also still the ones with the most interesting information on this subject, I think. Let us take a look how the 12 helices tie into the 12 information centers, being the 12 chakra system. When the chakras are open, connected, and activated, information is seeking its own expression and becomes available. When we are hooked into the information centers, 7 in our body and 5 outside our body, we are ready to receive energy through another set of 12 information centers. When we activate our 12 chakras, we hook into energy stored in parallel sets of 12 centers that will further activate the process. This will eventually bring our brains into its complete, full, computer-like function. These 12 parallel realities can unlock information that has been secreted away. The Pleiadians say we can compare this with deep governmental security, which uses different levels of fingerprints and imprints to access different levels of information. If something very secret is stored away, there are many different ways things must be connected. But why the security? It should be quite obvious to the reader by now. The original seeders of Earth could from previous experience, Earth is not the only living library, foresee what would happen if everything is in the open. They anticipated a future where invader forces would come to Earth and play their agendas. The deep security was a way to safeguard their creation. The activation of our 12 helices coincides with the activation, spinning, movement, and opening of the 12 centers of information, the 12 chakras or etheric energy disks. When the alignment of energy takes place, it brings and pulls energy into the 12 heavenly bodies in our solar system. These bodies then start feeding energy back to Earth. They activate themselves by releasing what they hold so that Earth can biogenetically come alive. When the outer 5 energy centers begin to hook themselves back up with our planet, there will be an incredible flood of energy, and this is what we are seeing the beginning of. There is certainly a correlation between the landing of Pleiadians on our planet and the activation of the 12 energy centers. The Pleiadians go on saying there are many more of these groups of 12, like the 12 spinning universes, for example. So far the Pleiadians. As we can see, they work with the 12 system, while LPGC and the wingmakers in their science and their working model work with the 7 system. If the reader can remember, we discussed the wingmakers in an earlier paper, the 7 tributary zones and the 7 superdomains/super universes. This is how the Pleiadians explain why they use the number 12. Right now 12 is the system that connects, and if you look around, you will see it everywhere. It was a symbolic insertion for a reason, so that you would someday figure out that it connects you to something somewhere else. It is not your natural rhythm but is a group agreement to use the energy of 12 in many different systems of reality. It is a coded formula. Many things that make no sense to the logical mind make a tremendous amount of sense to the light-encoded filaments and to the body as it is becoming more sensitive. There are those who would say that this is a very inefficient system and that it is not a natural flow. But this system of 12 is the flow that this planet was adjusted to. In actuality, if you look, you are a system of 13. How many times a year does the moon come full? 13. The system of 13 will come. You will open to it soon because you will move past time. The energy of 13 moves beyond logic and beyond the forced system. I am not going to speculate too much about the two systems, or three, if we count that of 13, because I am not savvy in higher physics and quantum/subquantum mechanics, but I can't help but speculate a little bit. If the Pleiadians are working with 12, it is 7 energy centers in connection with the body chakras, and we have 7 tributary zones in the wing maker's philosophy, and these are the ones the labyrinth group is working with. Are they representing the 7 body chakras? The Guardian Alliance are also working with the 12 system, albeit 15 dimensions, and when discussing the wing maker's material, they say it's wrong. There are actually 12 tributary zones on Earth, and 12 hidden, which makes it 24 still the 12 system, and that they are owned, not by the wing makers, but by the Guardian Alliance. 4.7 The family of light and multiple living libraries. There are those who came to this planet to receive energies from the original planners, creator gods. The Pleiadians call them the family of light and they are the forerunners. They have been here for a while and are those who raise above the crowd to show the way for others. The energy they receive from the original planners, whom I from now on will call the builders, of the living library in contrast to the founders, who built the structure of the universe, including the human template, creates a genetic alteration and reactivation and rebundle the light-encoded filament. This filament will make up the 12 helix system which can move the body into activation. Once people have their 12 helices reactivated, they then are ready to be used to access the data that is stored in Earth. The Pleiadians explain. What is this data that is so important? It is disguised in insects and flowers and pigs and donkey tails and rabbit ears and all kinds of things, and it is for you to discover. We want to emphasize that when the data was stored in the 12 libraries, it was stored in many different layers. When you came into the libraries, there were different codes of clearance. In other words, there were many different ways of entering the libraries. You could not just walk in and say, I have free clearance to receive all of this information. Just as there is now security clearance within your government, so the libraries holding this information had security systems. When the libraries were built, there was the pulsation of tyranny beating. This was long before the Anunnaki landed on Earth, billions of years ago, in our terms. There was a concern amongst the keepers of time, another world for the ancient creator gods, that information would get in the wrong hands. So, very playfully and creatively, libraries were designed in many different modes. Apparently, other libraries, or worlds, are not like Earth at all, and contain other information. What the builders decided to do was to engineer a project through which consciousness could evolve, have information, and be utilized to access information. This to me, rings very true, and as I progress on my own journey, I see new things around me all the time. If I study the butterfly with a certain pattern imprinted on its wings, I realize it's not only camouflage, but also encoded messages, like with any symbols. Without even knowing what these symbols mean, I could get profound insights that day. This is how it works on one level. And the snakes have their patterns. The Earth Library was designed so that without the human occupants, no one except the builders with the highest clearance and the master key could access the library. Humans are the library cards and some are better library cards than others. In the past, there was training involved that went into being the library card, and when beings from space or elsewhere came and wanted access to the library to find information on this planet, they would merge with the human occupant who was coded to respond to certain codes. If someone has a low code, they might only see a certain amount of something. Each being came to get access to a certain kind of information, just like in a book library. There were no secrets for secret's sake. The information looked for needed to be electromagnetically suited to their biokin structure. Data needs to be able to penetrate the belief system of an individual, or the individual's nervous system would not be able to handle it. However, when energy is strongly tempered with love, it prevents the individual from blowing apart and keeps them focused on very enlarged concepts. This is how large concepts are transduced onto this planet. They ride on the love frequency. Light frequency, on the other hand, can't carry larger concepts because it is not connection with emotion. This is the reason why human emotions are so important. They transfer light into love. In addition, and this is very important, many occult practices and religious cults out there are trying to have you leave your body, saying that salvation is not in the flesh, but in the spirit. Therefore, they have exercises and practices showing you how to get out of your body. There is nothing wrong with leaving your body on occasion if you know how to protect yourself. If you don't, anyone or anything discarnate may jump into the vacant space that's your body. Instead, it's imperative to understand that our job is to download the cosmos into our bodies, not to leave our bodies. This is how we activate our DNA. So, in other words, now, in these times, it's very important to stay grounded. The gamma rays from the sun and from the galactic center are what will mainly help activate us. Connect to the sun, connect to nature, connect to the central sun, but do so while being here, in your body. If not, the activation process may not work. I can't stress this enough. Our task is to meet this cosmic energy, absorb it, use it to reach higher levels of consciousness and meet others on these higher planes who have done the same, all through our biology. 4.8 Sex, DNA, and the living library. We all know that without sex we wouldn't be able to reproduce. Stop having sex and the species will quickly be extinct. We also know that sex is a strong drive in both women and men, and that we need it in one way or the other to feel good and satisfied. Lack of it can lead to frustration and even depression. Sex is also connection, a way for two individuals of opposite or same sex who love each other to become as one during the act and during the orgasm. During the climax, enormous sexual energies are sent out in the multiverse in a wave of creative force. Sex could lead to pregnancy, but even when it doesn't, it makes the environment in which love was made, fertile and life-enhancing. This, however, only happens when there is love between the individuals who have sex. Many religions promote having sex with only one individual in your life, the one you marry. This is counterproductive and suppressive, a rule made by the controllers. This doesn't mean we should sleep around with the first person we meet and cheat on our partners, but a person who is not bonded to someone else has the freedom to explore, and when you are bonded, the two of you are certainly free to explore as well, so long as both are on the same page and love is there. However, in the Western culture we are taught monogamy, and therefore having sex with more than one partner creates jealousy and a feeling of being less worth than others. Sex and love go hand in hand. Sex without love, just for the pleasure of it, is counterproductive and can lead to sex addiction of different kinds. Be very careful with whom you have sex, because in the act, we share our energies with each other and merge with each other. If the frequencies don't match, it may not only be a bad experience, but the energies may stay with you for a long, long time. Sex between equal partners can take you places which are hard to describe in words, but it takes you to higher dimensions. The number 10 is a power number, or a master number. It's actually two numbers, 1 and 0, same numbers as the binary system used in computers. The 1 is the phallus and the 0 is the vagina, thus, 1 is male and 0 is female energy. These two numbers can be found everywhere, yin and yang, 1 and 0, and on the checkerboard by combining numbers, for example, on the checkerboard which has 64 squares, black and white, 1 and 0, yin and yang, the number 64 equals 6 plus 4 equals 10 equals 1 and 0, just to mention another example. 1 and 0 are universal and part of what the universe is built around. The checkerboard is represented everywhere in our society, because it's such an ancient symbol. Freemasonry uses it all the time, and the floors in their lodges are covered with the checkerboard symbol. Next time you drive into town you can play a game with yourself or your partner. Count how many checkerboards you see on buildings, on floors everywhere, and see who finds the most. You'll be surprised. The number 0 also represents a portal, or stargate if you will. The vagina in itself is a portal to the spirit realm. This is where the sperm travels, a body is growing and a spirit is entering through the portal of the vagina. Thus, the female energy is very powerful, fertile, and life-enhancing. Unfortunately, since the Anunnaki tampered with our DNA and took over the stewardship of this planet, the male energy has ruled and the female energy been suppressed. We men need to step back and let the women once again be our equals, not through some kind of women's lib, like in the 1970s, which basically put men in the position women were before the movement started. So, instead of making us equal, it suppressed the male energy. This was orchestrated and very well planned by the Rockefeller family to continue to create imbalance between the sexes, confusion, and the destruction of the family unit. The women became like men instead of letting women be women and men be men. An often misunderstood Dr. Henry Makow, http://henrymakow.com, started out bringing up this issue, before he changed direction and more began to expose the global elite. Sex is so powerful that the global elite and black magicians in general are using it as a tool to bring in entities from other realms of realities, in their cases, the lower astral. Magicians, who gather in groups, entice women to come and join, and apply sex magic, to them. This way of using sex has nothing to do with love, no matter how much the magician is trying to convince you otherwise. Having sex without love, and with the attempt to bring up deities or demons, is destructive and must be avoided by anyone who is reaching for the higher densities of existence. I am emphasizing this, because these dark practices are much more common than people think and counteract the true path towards ascension. As of this writing, women who were in contact with the German Thule Order and its extension here in the US have now come forward after have broken free from the spell of people like Michael Noel Prescott, mentioned in detail in my previous book, The Myth Around Supreme David Rockefeller, http://supremrockefeller.wordpress.com. Michael Prescott is currently in jail for drug-related issues. However, when you own your sexuality, sex is fundamental, it's a part of the process of reactivating the DNA. You may have very interesting encounters as the years evolve and we become accessible, and as others utilize you to discover the library. It's up to each and everyone to take the opportunities to express it, and if you want to express it in those ways or not. More about this will be revealed later as I learn more myself. According to the Pleiadians, sex has been used to spark the library card. However, there is a fine line here, because there is danger in it too. It has been, and is, misused, as described in the paragraphs above. It is imperative that we all are careful and make sure we own our sexuality. Sex is fun, healthy, pleasurable, connecting, playful and experimental. Have fun with it, but don't let anybody entice you or force you to do something you don't want to do. Don't compromise with it. If you like it, if it's fun, playful, healthy, pleasurable, connective and experimental, it's positive sex. If not, it's going to bring you down eventually, and sexuality loses its true meaning. Sex does not have to be with a partner, either, although sex between two people is more powerful. If you don't have a partner, masturbation works too. Many masturbate even when they are in relationships, which is perfectly normal, and is sometimes helpful in the process. When you have sex with someone you love and who loves you back, you open avenues to the different libraries. The one you connect with doesn't have to be the person you would marry, but mutual love has to be there. Honor and love yourself and your body, give your body compliments, and keep it as healthy and strong as you can. That will be very important in the days to come. Sex brings up emotions, and emotions are the key to accessing data stored in the living library. 4.9 The gardeners. The builders, as well as the Anunnaki, were gardeners. They knew how to create a garden with flowers, herbs, roots, fruits, trees, and plants to get the best variety, enabling enhancement of physical bodies and the DNA. The builders spent a lot of time teaching us how to use nature as the source to our physical and emotional well-being. At that time we had access to the living library in a sense we do not have now. Some say that the evolved human, before the Anunnaki came, did not eat meat, but were vegetarians of sorts and could even live on absorbing light from the sun and from the plant life, which in its turn were downloading light from the sun and decoded the information into their system. Perhaps we did not become meat eaters until the Anunnaki added their own DNA to ours and tampered with our original 12 helices? Workers needed to be strong, and maybe giving us protein was the solution for the gods? Just food for our thoughts. Even during the Anunnaki period there were golden eras, where there was relative peace, and some of the gods taught man how to garden. Man became less enslaved, but the Anunnaki were still the slave owners, just like George Washington may have had some good ideas for the settlers, but still owned slaves, and could benefit from what they were taught. Although the intention with teaching us was probably to help out in the gods' gardens among other things, it was still beneficial. I am not suggesting that all Anunnaki were bad all of the time. They had their good beings as well, who wanted to protect humanity, but even though some of these more benevolent gods were of royal blood, they are still part of the A.M.I. system, and that is the reason we need to stay away from these beings for now. Eons ahead, when things may have changed, we can look at the situation again. Learn about gardening is something we need to do again. As we evolve, we automatically want to withdraw more and more from technology the way it's used by our modern society. We have seen the functional insanity that comes with it when used by low frequency. When technology was new and the increase of amazing devices and machines came on the market, most people were excited and thought it was fun and interesting. Even I thought so, going for a degree in computer science. I went pretty far on that route until I realized there was a connection between computers and artificial intelligence. The more I learned, the more chills went down my spine. I quit and have not regretted it since. I am glad I had that experience, another necessary learning lesson. Everything happens for a reason. Now, years after, I once again feel the great pull from nature and to connect with it on a much deeper level. I have been connected since I was a little kid, and even if I've been busy for parts of my life being inside the system, caught up in work and fast pace, I notice that once I get out there among the trees and the flowers, forests, and wildlife, I connect instantly. It's a wonderful feeling and I feel how everything is one, it's very obvious. True happiness lies in connection, not in separation. However, the connection needs to be natural, not artificial, created by technology. Additionally, the ones in charge of nanotech and how it is used is also in charge of the whole humanity, a route towards the ultimate control. This is what I see happening in the A.M.I. society. When you feel the change coming from inside and you know you need to change your lifestyle, look into, and research, the living library, the herbs, the plants, the fruit, berries, vegetables, the roots. Learn what you need to be able to create a garden for yourself, free from toxins. Talk to the plants, give them love and affection. Have sex in the garden, if possible, and communicate with the sun and ask for the best garden there is, with the healthiest food ever imaginable. Bless the earth and say thank you to the plants and herbs before you eat them. Feel gratitude. Do all this, and the same thing with the water, and you'll have a garden that has rarely been seen on earth in the last 100 years. And of course, you will live a healthy life and probably extend it quite a bit.